Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mondays with Meg.
And Tom, we're back to the arm movements. Okay.
I like the arm movements.
All right.
I'm going to start arm moving in the pulpit more. Tom, what are we going to talk about today?
So, in thinking about Lent and always, again, the theme of we give things up in Lent or things to talk about that may be holding us back in our faith and realizing or understanding or growing or whatever word you want to throw in there. I think this week I wanted to talk about individualism.
Ooh.
And how, especially with our culture, our very individualistic culture, and how that comes into Christianity, that kind of flattens out a lot of Christianity. It kind of doesn't it doesn't take us where we want to go. We turn too many things in faith or in church, or even the way we talk about theology or whatever, and it becomes about me and meeting certain standards, or me doing this, or me, it's a lot of me stuff.
You mean it's not all about me?
No, Meg, it's not all about me.
Darn.
Or you, even. You as Meg, me Meg.
Me, Meg. I think that's a good thing to talk about, because I think that really does, that me, I really takes away from our relationship with the community and our relationship with God.
Because it sort of stunts us.
Right.
I mean, if I'm okay...
Well, then everybody's okay.
Well, either I assume everyone's
right.
okay, or, again, it's about me and God.
Mm-hmm.
But, theologically speaking, or even scripturally speaking, it's never about me and God. There's the scripture is it's communal. It's more about the community together. And so while there has to be individual faith, because we're individuals,
right?
But that individual faith is all about serving as part of the body of Christ or the community. So without this becoming just an advertisement for, hey, why is it a good idea to come to church? And maybe that's a practice you want to bring up during Lent, or to take on during Lent.
We're at Parkway Presbyterian in Winston-Salem, in case you were wondering.
But that's very important. I mean, again, it
is important.
We hear about, but I can be with God anywhere, and I can feel as close to God in playing golf or taking a walk in the woods. It's usually taking a walk in the woods, doing some sort of individual activity with God.
Someone who doesn't golf, I don't know about that.
I don't golf either, but that's great. Good, do that.
Yeah, you can still, nothing's stopping you from doing that.
But, all that should be building towards something. It's kind of like, this will make people mad.
Hackles down. Just listening ears.
This is again this is off the top of my head, like all those conversations are, but it's kind of like the bodybuilder, who builds so that they can,
have the muscles,
do that and oil up and do the posing, versus the person who's doing strength training so they can go off and do something with their strength.
Right.
And that's, we're getting into too much. I think we do a lot of posing Christianity.
The performative
Christian. Yeah, that's your favorite word. We keep bringing up.
Yeah, that one and accountability. We like that one too. But yeah, the performative, the ritualistic performances.
And who's that for?
It's for me.
So you feel good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not me. I try really hard to really pay attention to those kind of things. Listen, let me tell you, this Old Testament class this semester has been all about, yes, the ritualistic performances aren't cutting it. This is not what I'm asking for.
And that's like what we were saying earlier. I mean, the Old Testament prophets never they never show up and say, look, you guys are doing really good taking care of the poor and everything, but here's the problem. If you could just do better with your festivals, and you need more flair.
If you could just sacrifice one more fat cow.
Yeah. The sacrifices have been kind of low here lately. You know, you're not singing loud enough, or, you know, I'm tired of those songs. We need some new, more upbeat songs.
So what do the prophets say?
God never comes doing that. It's always a reminder of, you know, I'm kind of sick and tired of your performances. How about you actually go and maybe, you know, if it's going to be an individual, maybe you as an individual will go some, but they're never speaking to individuals. They're always speaking to the plural you. You need to do better at.
It is always the plural.
You know, stop buying or hurting the poor with cheap goods, or you know, what is it? You buying the poor for
the sandals.
The sandals. I'm not getting that quote. It's like right here.
I know which one.
You know which one. You know which one. You've read that one. You've read those prophets.
The sandal.
But it's always a communal kind of thing. It's something about, look, you as a community, this is not about you. Your piece, you take your gift into the community and you try to lift up the common good. You know, I feel like...
Well, like even the translation with the you is never a singular you.
Oh, you're going to get all Hebrew.
It's always, it's a plural. Right. It's like the you all.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all.
We would say y'all.
What is that in Hebrew? Y'all in Hebrew. What is y'all in Hebrew?
You all.
Can you?
Nope.
Can you tell us
that
what
one doesn't
the
come
letters?
back.
What are even the letters?
Listen. The words that I can tell you. Darkness. Those are the words.
Darkness.
But the you a lot of times is plural. When the prophet is speaking and it's you need to stop doing this so you can do this. It's never just like you the one. It's you the all.
Right. I mean, it's really rooted there in the prophets that other based focus. You know, that's the faith that you should be. You should have. You should be developing as that very communal, other focused faith, and we seem not to be doing well with that. I mean, I think if you look at it today, I think that's really one of the things that holds us back today. We're so focused on the individual, and you know, to use this word, we market ourselves to the individual and the individual faith that you, the individual, believe the right things in the right way, and that, you know,
and
you conform. It's more about conforming to community rather than bringing your gifts to lift up the community, to take that community and be a part of that community, to then serve. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be. We've become very self-serving. Yeah. Where service is always supposed to be focused outward.
Well, and it's like as we journey to the cross, because that's a real heavy journey we're on right now. As we journey to the cross, Jesus isn't, I'm going to go die for myself. Y'all just do the same. That's not it. It's never what's happening.
Right. So again, if that cross is the center, it's not sitting there in the center as it's. I think sometimes we treat that more as the get out of jail free card. Right. So then we can still go and do our individual things.
Well, Jesus died for my sins, so I can just keep sinning. It's like, what? No. Stop.
But it seems it's like, yes, Jesus died for your sins,
right?
Individual, you. How? But then there's another step past that. But it's like,
but we don't want to take that next step.
Right.
We just want to go whoop.
Right.
It
seems we stop too much right there.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like
we stop short.
We stop short. We do stop short. I mean, it's sort of like, what was the trend a couple decades ago now? Because time flies, and I've gotten old. I used to be the exciting young minister. Now I'm just the old guy looking at towards retirement. But it's when they used to have the seeker services, which was great in concept. You've never heard of a seeker service? I don't think so. Well, the concept was to try to open and welcome people in.
Okay.
But the problem with the seeker service is that it never, what's next? It's like, we're here to get them in the door and kind of teach them the beginning and introduce them. But then we stick there at the introduction constantly.
You don't take the next step.
You don't take the next step. It's like having we don't have altar calls in our tradition, but it's like the constant altar call, and you're kind of in this sort of
like even watching altar calls, nowhere. It's like just step forward, and that's like you watch someone take a step, and then it's like,
well, then what?
Now what?
What happens after? And it seems like we're still not very good at okay, look, we've done this part. We don't need to keep doing this part anymore. What's next? What's the next step in our maturity? What's the next? How do we actually grow and move past the perpetual? I'm laying a hold on Jesus or whatever. Whatever that.
Well, what's your suggestion for the next step?
Well, again, I think
what's the next part?
That's where community helps, because in community you meet a variety. You meet a variety of people.
But how do we make it so? And maybe this is a thing for another day, because I feel like we could just go off on this one now. But
maybe we should go off on this one. How do
we make community more than just a buzzword? Because that's such a, oh yeah, I'm in it now. I but it's such a big thing, our community, my people at the church, church is such a big place for community. You can say that all day long.
Right.
But how do you take the step to live into that community? And what's the I don't know. You think someone that I know who's been going to a church for a very, very long time. So it's like the community is like built up around this person, and this person's like a very long time going to this church. And then it's like every time this person goes to church on Sunday now, no one says anything. There's no hi, how are you? Like none of the community stuff that should be there is there. So then we talk a big game at being in community with people. But I think a lot of times we really suck at it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are you surprised?
Well, I'm glad. No, I'm not surprised. But it is. It's like, it's this thing. It's like when you talk to people, what do you like about your church? Oh, we have a really strong community. And it's like, yeah, but do you? Like, if you really look at it.
Right.
And if you can't say, if you're gone 2 Sundays in a row and you go back on the 3rd Sunday, does someone walk up to you and go, hey, we missed you. I'm so glad you're here today. And if you don't get that, are you really in community with those people in that place?
I'm going to push back on you.
Yeah.
Is that community as serving me? Is that still a definition of community where it comes back where my place in this community must be acknowledged or something? And so I'm a part of community, but it's still a way that I'm using to feed myself What does it look like to be a part of a sacrificial community? And again, I think,
right.
we do a hard time with that. I think churches really struggle because we've got so many.
We talk a lot.
We talk a lot.
Right.
We talk a lot, and we've got lots of expectations, and we've
Right.
got a lot of plates spinning.
Right.
But it is difficult realizing, are we community? Are we a sacrificial community?
Right.
Are we a community so we're just sort of an extent? Are we a
right,
performative community?
Are
we, as leaders, what is it we're trying to do? Because I know part of what we
right.
try to do is we've got to keep a healthy institution.
Right.
We're working, part of our work.
Yeah, that's one
always
spinning
in our
right.
mind is we've got to keep this thing alive.
Right.
Because if it dies, then anything we were going to try to do,
right.
we definitely
can't do. Right.
We want to try to get people to have more interpersonal relationships. So it may be more smaller interpersonal relationships. Just that it's important to have friendships
right.
in community.
Right.
We got to try to do things. I mean, we sometimes do things that seem, what kind of good is this bringing into the world?
Right.
You're having a chili contest.
Right.
Hottest chili. Who can eat the hottest chili? I don't know. So
right.
events like that, and you think, well, how is this bringing the light of Christ into the
right.
world? But that little piece is about
that's the
building a
right.
friendship and
right.
that part, so that even as you as an individual are journeying through life, you're not journeying alone.
Right.
And you can be there, trying to be there with one another. So there's that aspect of community that we're trying to develop.
I think it's...
But then how do we mobilize better? How do we take our community and actually do something that makes a difference outside of the people inside my four walls and our,
so now we've built
our circle of friends
and
around Christ.
Take our community out into the bigger community to do.
And that's harder.
I think that's
a lot harder to do. But again, I think we do a lot of bodybuilding.
Right. So I can have the big muscles.
Which you got to build the strength, but then you don't
use the strength.
I think we fail at using the strength.
The next thing is, well, how do we then appropriately use the strength?
Right.
And take the step to do whatever the next part is.
Maybe these last 2 years, and now COVID kind of conveniently
squashed,
taking a break here right as Lent is sort of starting. Yeah. Is that something then that we look at? How do we, with what we've got, truly, the last 2 years have been, how do we hold this thing together?
Right. How do you keep it from just completely falling apart?
Right.
Right.
And when everything that we could normally do was sort of taken away.
Right.
And so now, has that experience helped to change our focus away from, it may not be an individual, but it becomes still that inward focus of a congregation. How do we begin to truly move out to something different?
Well, how do we be?
And what does that look like?
The people that we're called to be out in the world.
Because, isn't a challenge right now that's facing churches is volunteerism. As volunteerism drops. So if it looks like an activity...
I think that's always been facing the church. I think it's just seemingly more apparent right now. It's like we couldn't do all these things, and now we're trying to do these things, and no one wants to step up and help with the things.
My theory is, again, the church that we imagine, the church we've experienced in our lifetimes, to put a shout out to housewives of the 60s and 70s and 50s as well, probably, but the one stay-at-home spouse, which was women,
right?
Historically it was women.
Most likely the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Go moms!
Women were the powerhouse. They were the engine of they made churches work in this institutional structure we have. And as society has changed and women have found life, working and such, and that whole social structure has changed, we're still an institution built on it's like we lost our major engine and we don't know how to what to do with it.
Right.
But that and I think that's part of just the social. That's just the natural social change. It's not. Again, we could respond by saying, you know what we need? We need more women staying at home. Stop this working, you women. We need you to.
No.
We need to go into complementarianism. Complementarianism, is that the right? Oh, where you have to.
That's a word.
It is a word where you have to play your. I may be
my
butchering
role?
that word. You have to play your role as a woman. I play my role as a man, and that gets us back into this certain social structure that everything.
Well, clearly it
our
doesn't work
institutions
because
were
we've
built
evolved.
Upon. Well, it changed, but again, for some churches, that's been the response.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's like, what do you do when you lose the engine? When you lose the bombs?
And that may be, for us, again, people who are in leadership in the church, that's part of what we've got to try to figure out.
Right. Well, it's realizing that it's not stay-at-home moms anymore who are the...
Right. When you're trying to be, we're still trying to be somewhat a programmatic church. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to be a programmatic church if you don't have volunteers to run those programs.
Right.
If you don't have people step forward and say, this is important to me, I'm going to make this a part of my life.
Right. But what do you do then? Because this makes me think about like time and talent, like the kind of pledging kind of stuff. And so on the piece of paper you say, yeah, I'm game, I'll do it.
Right.
And then when it comes down to, hey, you said you would do this. Do you think there's something you can help out with now? No, I've got this going on and this going on. And it's like, well, I get that, but like, you also said, I'm coming to you to okay.
That's the needs of leading an institutional church.
Right.
Right? So that you keep trying to do this. I know here in our own community, our own church community, we're hearing a lot of, I'll happily be a worker, but I don't want to
lead
the one
thing.
In charge.
Yeah. Which I do I get that though. I do also get that.
But that is also...
So if I do all the work in the beginning, can you then take it and run with it
from here
in practice?
But that's the next, isn't that sort of what we move to? And the kind of direction I know here at Parkway that we're kind of looking at is...
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then we've got to hire...
Right.
Leaders.
Right.
We're going to have to be much more staff focused.
Right.
Because somebody has to get this moving,
someone has
and
to get the ball going. Right.
It can't be.
They can't always be me.
It can't always be me
or
you. I don't know how we got there from starting with talking about where.
Because we were talking the community. I derailed us with the performative.
No, well, but maybe this makes it. Again. Today, as we're trying to figure out faith, I think that's a part of what our struggles are here in the 21st century. We're trying to figure out, what does a 21st century Christianity look like?
Mm-hmm. That postmodern,
mm-hmm. Or even, I think part of what we're saying here is we're understanding that, and the institution is important.
Right.
But the institution as it was conceived in the 20th century
was great for that time and that place,
functioning,
but not now.
So how do you even reimagine church or a church like ours that is focused more on community or something a little different, where we're not, because we can. I think a lot of the churches now that are doing well are the performance churches,
right?
Where you as an individual come, you get your experience of church, you get your
fill for the Sunday,
and then you go your way.
And you go yell at servers at brunch because.
Why are we yelling at servers at brunch? Is this just
that's
something
just
from your past?
Yeah, it's always the people, the post-church people on Sunday who are always the meanest on Sunday.
The meanest to their servers?
Yeah, it's always like, you just sat for an hour! I digress.
You digress.
Reel it back in.
I mean, that's always the one route where it becomes much more, we've become a consumer product. So
that's a whole other conversation.
It just gets to you as an individual come
corporate Christianity,
and you consume your bit of corporate Christianity. We make the brand, we put out the product. I think that's what has worried me so much about folks like with you've got to do things like what we're doing here.
Right.
Is this product or is this something else?
Right. Well, it feels like something else. It doesn't just feel like.
But when you've grown up in a time of advertising, when that's the air you breathe and the way things are communicated, always with advertising.
I don't think we're advertising. I think
whatever.
We are. Nobody knows who we are, where we are.
I always
we talk about that all the time.
We're
not advertising nothing. We're just a minister and someone in seminary having conversations every week that we think people need to hear.
I don't know. Even that, I wonder. Do they need to hear this?
Yes, you need to hear this.
Is this something you need? That gets us back to advertising. Then we're advertising. Then we're selling a product because you need to hear this. But I do like that you've derailed us towards even in their communities. I mean, isn't that the weakness of all of this? As we're trying to figure out, okay, I think that's why we stay comfortable with, faith is about that stuff that's out there that doesn't really connect with what's happening in my life from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. I can say the words, I can do whatever that makes me feel good about myself as I struggle in my life in a difficult world and that I'm having a hard time dealing with.
Right.
But when does, what does it look like when it gets real?
Mm-hmm. When it's right here.
When it's right
not
here.
Not right there, but right here.
Yeah. When it's not just conforming to something. What happens when the faith that I've been saying and I really meet something where an event in my life I know it requires that faith response, but I find that I'm so stunted and then I become afraid to let go, or I become afraid to allow myself to have an authentic experience in something.
Well, to break open to.
What if I say something that's not appropriate or approved by Meg?
By who?
By Meg.
That's the.
By my authority that I look towards, the person who's told me that it's got to be like this.
I'm going to be the minister that answers your question with another question that makes you go look and figure things out for yourself.
Then I have no need of you. So say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Gracie.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Gracie. Goodbye. We'll see you next time on our next episode of Mondays
With
With-
Meg.
and Tom.
Haha.